And we are back on another exciting installment of the Terrorisk podcast. This is going to be episode 64. What's up, y'all? What's up, Dimitri? What's up?
Hey, what's good?
What's up, everybody?
We got mic stands today.
Yeah. I used the mic stand on the episode I just released because I was with my friend Chris, and he's such a lazy piece of shit. He doesn't even want to hold a fucking microphone, and he always bitches. He's like, "Oh, I want the mic stand. I want the mic stand." And I'm like, "All right, fine, you fucking princess. You'll get
I want the mic stand.
Yeah.
Everyone wants the mic stand.
Yeah. So we got another one of those themed episodes for y'all today. I don't know if you guys know this, but I make music. I produce music. I'm a music producer by label, and so is Demi. I think you're technically a music producer, right? You produce music, don't you?
I do. I'm primarily a bassist, but I do dabble with production.
Well, I'm primarily a samurai, and I also dabble in production. No, I'm kidding. I was doing music before I was doing samurai sword bullshit.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
for sure.
Okay.
I've probably been producing music for more than 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I started since I was like 18, 19.
Oh. I think I only got into it during the pandemic, actually.
Oh, man.
Like, I've done it before then, but that's when I was like, oh, let me really sit down and get good.
Yeah. So anyway, today's episode is going to be all about 5 things we wish we knew before becoming music producers. I repeat, 5 things we wish we knew before becoming music producers. And hopefully this list will deter enough of you to start down on this incredibly taxing and it's just not worth it. This life path.
No, come on. We're still doing it, obviously.
Yeah, I'm kidding. It's actually not. It's a lot of fun. I like making music. Making music is a good fucking time. It helps you learn about yourself. It helps you connect with other people. It enriches your life. I think making art in general, whether it's music or whether you write or whether you draw, I do think the purpose of art isn't really to make money or to get famous. It's literally to enrich your experience on this earth, and to
Yeah, I agree with that.
and to bring bring back better shit with you to God after you die.
Wow, okay. Wasn't gonna go that far, but
Yeah.
all right.
All right. So is there anything you want to add before we dive into this list, this comprehensive list of 5 whole things?
Well, I feel like I would at least want to say that, I am not by any means a professional. Like, I just do this for fun.
Well, we didn't say professional music producer.
But it's said, like, this is from the perspective, at least in my case, I'm not going to speak for you, of an amateur music producer who, only put out a handful of tracks that I'm pretty proud of, honestly. But, it's not like I'm getting radio play or anything.
The way I see it is like, with music and like anything else, you can't forget that you're always the student. Once you forget how to be a student, you stop learning. So whether you're a pro or an amateur, the question is, are you still able to like look at yourself as a student of something? Because as long as you still consider yourself the student, then your learning doesn't stop. So that's where I kind of stand in that whole like professional or amateur debate.
I agree with that too.
I respect any music producer who approaches it as the student, who's got that tick to learn new things, as opposed to constantly reinforcing shit they already know. I'm more interested in the music producers who are outwardly like asking questions like, how did you do that? Like, I've never heard or done shit like that before, made shit like that before. Like, how did you do that? And then when I see people like approaching music like that, that's when I could like look at that person and be like, if you keep that mentality, like you're clearly going to go far. That's just the way that's with anything.
Yeah,
like
I
martial
think so
arts,
too.
Cooking, anything,
Yeah.
literature.
You just got to always stay on that hustle. Wait, one more thing, actually. Should we like define what music production is?
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right.
So people aren't just like, well, what do you actually do though?
Yeah, so what do I mean when I say music producer? To me, a music producer isn't someone who necessarily has to play music. To me, a music producer is someone who can literally just put music together, regardless of whether or not they play it or sing
Yeah.
it. But a person who could holistically approach music and generate like a recorded piece of music, using
Right.
not just their own ability or their own musical talent, but using the musical talent of other musicians and also resources like electronic music generators and plugins and shit
Yeah,
like that.
samples, and then yeah, you're basically like the studio is your instrument, is the way a lot of people like to put it.
Well, yeah, and I also
But
like
not just the studio, but also like, well, I guess everything can be your instrument as long as you can record it and put it together.
I mean, we also have to admit, like, technology really did a lot to like make the definition so nebulous, right?
That's true.
But back then, as a music producer, you were worth the amount of musicians you were able to get together to like play shit for you, that you direct. Nowadays, being a music producer just means you could just have a digital audio workstation and to be able to put down whatever the fuck you want, whenever the fuck you want, with whatever
Yeah.
sounds you want.
Right.
And yeah, that's. But I think.
Yeah, and more than that, I think your role expanded to like encompass things like songwriting, mixing and mastering, like engineering,
So when
in addition to, just gathering the stuff to make the track.
when I compare the experience of like playing guitar to like sitting behind a DAW, like when I have like the electric guitar in my hands, I feel like I have a lightsaber. I'm just like using like skill and technique and will to like carve out my reality. Whereas when I have a digital audio workstation, I feel like I'm in command of a whole Starfleet.
You're
like a
Death
whole
Star.
yeah. It's like, dude, I could do anything. Like, I could destroy whole worlds. I could build new ones. Like, it's
Yeah.
like it's the micro and the macro. But I don't see them as separate really, as I see like just two sides of the same coin. As above, so below, as within, as without. How good you are, with one instrument is ultimately going to reflect your holistic view of putting a track together,
Yeah.
and like your experience as a person who can view the song as a whole and not just your part. That's ultimately going to make you better at being a guitarist or a bassist
Yeah.
because you know how to see the bigger picture. So I think they're both important. I think it's important to look at a song you're making from, whether if you're a guitarist, then yeah, you should put a lot of heavy emphasis and focus and attention and care onto your guitar part. But at the same time, you should also think of the song as a whole. On the flip side, if you're a music producer, you should care for each little instrumental part of your track as if you're a musician playing that one part.
Yep.
Pay that much detail that as a guitarist would for each part, then you will be better at like making a whole song. So yeah, this goes back to the Hermetic philosophy, like as above, so below, and I totally agree with that.
Okay.
It's the law of correlation. Like the smallest pieces correlate with the largest pieces. Oh, he's gonna go up.
Yep. Yeah. Got a cat in the way.
All right, so we could dive into the list.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, the cat's gonna eventually bounce. But anyway, first one on the list. First of the list of 5 things that I wish I knew before becoming a music producer.
Cat butthole.
Hold on, let me just get the cat out of the way.
Right. Keep him waiting.
All right.
Suspense.
So, first one is number 1. No one gives a shit, and that's okay.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is no one's gonna give a shit about your music at first,
Fuck you.
and that's
Suck.
okay. You
Suck.
shouldn't.
No one likes you.
Ultimately, you really. I mean, it's nice when people like your music. It's nice when people give you money for it, but you're gonna just burn yourself out if that's the only reason you have for making music. You need something else there, and
Maggot.
you need at least the love of it, the love of the craft. You gotta learn how to like love this shit just for its own sake. And if you can't love it for its own sake, then you're not really gonna go far with anything. Whether it's music or some other endeavor that's like ridiculously, time consuming and energy exhaustive and all that shit and socially demanding. So yeah, even if no one gives a shit about your music at first or ever, that's not a reason to stop. If anything, I'd say that's
Well,
just
it's also
a reason.
not a reason to start. But I was gonna say it's slightly different. Basically, I think, generally speaking, no one's going to care unless you do something actually good. And most people, most of the time, will probably not make something that's actually good.
Why is that?
That's hard to honestly say. It's like, well, first off, it just takes a lot of effort, in my opinion, to make something that's actually good. And I don't mean like effort in the polished sense, but I mean like effort in the finding sense. Like, you gotta, I don't know. I feel like sometimes in song art stuff, like, you gotta like come upon a good idea, right? Just at all. Like, you don't generate them on demand, obviously, right? Like, so you're gonna be, kind of sifting through a lot of different things until you come upon something that's good. And then you gotta have the skills to like unlock its true potential, So people fail, I feel, in both departments, right?
Yeah.
Like, even sometimes they have a really good idea and then they just don't execute that well. And then other times they just never have a good idea at all, even if they do execute well.
Okay, so we could tackle that part in two ways. The first point you made about execution, I think that's easier to talk about. So let's start with the harder one first.
Okay.
So the second point you made, which is the second problem that people have, is they don't have good ideas, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
All right, so here's my take on good ideas when it comes to music or anything creative. I think there's a huge misconception about quote unquote good creative ideas in art in general. I think what people fail to understand is that they think that good ideas generate entirely from the self. Because all creative output starts as an idea, right? Every great painting, every great song, it has to start as an idea. And I think the thing that people get wrong is that they think these ideas are just like completely generated, completely originated in one's own mind and one's own experiences. I don't think that's true at all. Because I agree with that. I think what the real fact of the matter is that good ideas are out there. That we're surrounded by good ideas. We don't make them up. They're already there. Yeah. It's not a matter of making up good ideas. It's a matter of accepting and receiving and being in a state where you could actually take in a good idea and act on it. For example, you know how they say you can't pour tea in your cup if your tea is already full?
If your cup is already full?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, if your teacup is already full, yeah.
Yeah, you have to empty the cup first, yes.
Exactly. You have to, and that's really what that's getting at. It's like you're not going to find any new good ideas. You're not going to be able to. It's like fishing. Yeah. You have to learn how to cast your reel out. If you never cast that reel out, which basically is just a metaphor for what? Keeping an open mind, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, it's like I think everyone has good ideas and everyone has bad ideas.
No. What I'm saying is no one really has any ideas. They just receive the ideas and choose to act on it.
I'm like. That is one way of looking at it. But basically, like, it's also up to you to figure out which ideas are good and which ideas are bad. Because, like, okay, you're going to have ideas at all. How do you know if they're good? Right?
That's a good question.
Not like every idea you receive is going to be a banger. You have to like be able to see the potential of the idea.
That's a good question, but I think that's one of the reasons why trial and error or the scientific method or stuff like that is such a big part of human exploration, because you're right, like there's no way to be able to tell immediately if an idea is good or bad, which is why we're so selective about being an open mind, keeping an open mind, because so many of us have experienced acting out on bad ideas and understand the consequences and ramifications that could potentially lead to such acts and behavior. But which is why we learn to be more apprehensive about the ideas we choose to act on and accept. But what I'm saying is despite that, we're still not going to get to anything good without some level of trying out the potentially bad ideas just to find the good ones.
I mean, sometimes a bad idea is a good idea because
exactly.
You just recontextualize it.
Maybe that's what every good idea or bad idea ultimately is, just a recontextualized version of the same idea, just executed poorly, which brings us back to the first point, what you said. It's about also execution. So you could have the idea, and it could be a good or bad idea, but the question is how are you going to execute it? And I think that's easier to answer because that has more to do with what? Discipline, methodology.
There's much more objective criteria.
Yeah,
for
frame.
Good execution.
Yeah, you're right. And that's where a lot of us could be more comfortable with, the disciplinary end of execution as opposed to like the nebulous aspect of coming up with good or bad ideas, which is,
Right.
is that itself is a tall order. But to add like the discipline on that, so what are we talking about? To like make like good, solid creative output that actually satisfies people, that we find is profound. It's basically a relationship, a dialogue between the left and right hemispheres of the brain, two different like opposing sensibilities, where one is just like more about openness, reception, the divine femininity, whereas the next one is like, all right, you got the good idea, now you have to like be militant about it and act it out and like
Yep.
execute a strategy to realize it and manifest it into this reality.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's the trick. That's why it's not easy. That's why not everyone can do it, because it's learning how to reconcile two very different sensibilities and like two very different states of being, and like learning how to like use a kind of like an alchemy, like
Yeah.
to find a symbiosis or that like alchemic process between the two inside of you to make something good. And like you're not going to make anything good by not being receptive to like new ideas and being open-minded, but at the same time you're not going to make anything good if you're not at least a little bit militant about it and like disciplined and approach it with some level of like structure.
There's that quote. It's like right drunk, added sober, right?
Right drunk what?
Added sober.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. That is
Yeah,
that's
that's basically how that works.
that is a
You're
metaphor. That's a
very
huge-
free flowing in the idea generation stage, and then you're very strict in the quality control stage.
I mean, if you think about it, that's exactly how religion works. You have to be like open-minded to even believe and have faith in the first place. Then, once you get past that, then you got to get hit with the discipline and the structure.
See, I
and
don't even know about that, but okay.
what I mean, like, first of all, you got to believe to call yourself a Christian to some, whether you're forced to,
I'm not
indoctrinated to.
Christian.
What?
I'm not Christian.
No, I'm saying anybody, like
Oh.
anybody in general with religion. Like as an example, you have to, whether you were indoctrinated, whatever, you need some sense of belief, where regardless of where it comes from, you got to at least like believe in the values or or the story it's telling or something. You got to believe in some aspect of it. Then once you have that faith, then it hits you with the so you shouldn't sin, you shouldn't kill people, you shouldn't steal from them, you shouldn't lie, like you shouldn't
Right.
cheat, you shouldn't do any of that bad shit. So it's like that's an example of like religion is a field where like you're reconciling the right and left hemispheres of the brain. Where same thing with art, same thing with
Sword fighting.
sword fighting, martial arts.
fighting,
Well,
yes.
martial arts, yeah. Sports, athleticism, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to like have faith, because like with athleticism, there's really no material need to go out and play sports. Yeah, they'll tell you it's good for you and all
Same
that.
with music, yeah.
Yeah, there's like we would really rather have like doctors and lawyers and construction workers, than before we would have like like artists and shit and like religious people, because like our world is run on material factors, so we want like specialists in the field of like material aspects of life that can like actually maintain and facilitate its balance and
Yeah.
order. But at the same time, you also want, I mean, that other shit adds meaning to life, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like all the greatest like scientists and doctors and lawyers are like, oh, our lives would be so much less good if we didn't have art and music. Like, I feel like they all say that.
There's a lot of overlap too, I think, that we more than we give credit for usually.
Yeah, the spirituality, like, music is a spiritual thing too, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like you could talk about with that, like who wrote the first song, where did the first song actually come from, like what the fuck.
We don't have to go into that.
But the first song is a lot like saying like the first piece of art, like what is the original art, and a lot of people would like go so far as to say the original work of art was the first prayer.
Ooh.
I thought that was like really deep, and I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense, because that is like by tapping into the creator, you become the creator in a sense, because you're already imagining and creating a metaphysical element of how you view your reality, to even consider the concept of prayer, praying to the spirits or the gods or some greater force that is not physically seen, but these ancient people might have had the sensibility to be like, all right, there's something here, we don't know it's there, but it's there.
I mean, I feel like on some level, art would be like the reverse of prayer, right? In prayer, you're like asking the world to manifest an inner desire, whereas in art, you're like channeling like something from the world through yourself. Like, one is asking, one is receiving, Is that
Wait,
like a
so making the
stoner
art
thought?
is making art is the receiving and not
Yeah.
the, yeah, okay.
Like you're not like asking like God, give me a song, right? You're like
But
looking out
but I
and
also
just getting like.
But I also
inspiration.
think that's not what prayer really is. Like, I don't think
know.
prayer is just like wish making. You know, like I don't think prayer is just sitting there in wishful thought. I think like actual prayer, and I think like a lot, and I'm sure there's a lot of debate, but I think most like devout Christians. I'm not a devout Christian, by the way, full disclosure. But I
Wow.
think like a lot would undoubtedly say like it's prayer is not about like sitting there and asking God for the things you want.
Not even money.
No, I think prayer, well, first and foremost, I think prayer is first about gratitude. It's about being thankful for your existence in your life because it didn't have to be. And second, I think another thing about prayer is not about like the conscious like dialogue. I think prayer is more about the state of surrender that you're in. Because that's what meditation is too. Meditation, maybe not to like the same like narrative God, you know, but meditation also puts you in a state of surrender, you know, like, you know, when I've listened to, you know, pastors talk about prayer, how like when you sit there in prayer, you will notice your flesh objecting. Your flesh is what wants to tell you to scream, to stop praying, to get up, and to like go do something else. You know, it's your flesh that's telling you. It's like, oh, you got to scratch that itch. You got to get up and use the bathroom. You got to clean. You got to move those newspapers or whatever. It's your flesh that's doing that. And you know what you do when your flesh tells you to do that? You sit there and you pray some more. And I thought that was like very interesting because yeah, I may not, you know, believe in prayer and like the Christian narrative and whatever, but that sounds like suspiciously a lot like what they do for meditation. You know, like it's your ego and your mind that's telling you and objecting you to like stop meditating, to do something better with your time. So what do? You sit there and you fucking meditate some more until that voice shuts the fuck up. And that's the secret. That's the secret to meditation, is to literally be at war with your mind until your mind finally says, fuck it. I give up. You win. Fine. You want to sit here and fucking meditate? That's what you want to do with your fucking day? Fine. We'll sit here and fucking meditate. And suddenly, everything opens up. Same thing with prayer. It's like, fine, you want to sit here and talk to your fucking stupid fucking God? You want to sit here and waste your day doing that and pray? Fine, we'll sit here and fucking pray. And that's when you become like, you know, in touch with the Holy Spirit. You know, like that's funny how that works. Like,
I don't know anything about this. I'll be honest.
I disagree. Have you ever just jammed, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, there's that moment, like, especially when jamming with new musicians, and then at first you start off with that state. It's kind of like a tense air, like a tense atmosphere, especially if you've never jammed with that person before, and you're like,
yeah, like feeling
shit,
each
like,
other out, yeah.
like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? And then, but it usually starts where, you know, the drummer's sitting there, and usually one dude with the balls, whether it's the drummer to just start playing a beat, or whether it's the bass to go boom, you know, just, and he just starts rolling off a beat, and then everyone kind of like goes in, and suddenly, like gradually, very quickly, I might add, that tension just melts away because no one's thinking anymore. They're just doing. They're just like getting in the groove. They're following the drummer.
Okay.
That's what meditation is. It's like it's a jam with yourself and no instruments. It's except instead of the drummer and the bass you're losing yourself to, you lose yourself to like your own heartbeat, your breathing, your environment. You know, like not, you know, it's not about
exactly what you just described earlier, but okay.
what.
No, because you were like, you know, you want to like pray to your fucking God. Well, here you go. And it's like that sounds a little more aggressive than how jamming would work.
Well, that's just one example, but I'm saying there is going to be some kind of psychic like resistance to the act of sitting there, because like again,
Yeah, sure.
what is your material mind constantly telling you? Time is money. Don't waste your time. If you waste your time, you waste your money. If you waste your money, you waste your life. If you waste your life, then you're not gonna be able to buy this shit. You're not gonna be able to get that slamming hot girlfriend.
I love wasting time. That's like my favorite thing.
I get that, but I'm just saying conventional. Let's look at like just conventional social wisdom. What would it tell you? It's like you can't waste your time because we live in a material world. We live in society. Look, you're fine. You know what, Dimitri? You could stand above it and all that. And I'm not saying you're not above it, all that shit.
I don't think I am either.
I'm just saying this is the world we live in. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. That's it. You know, that's all I'm saying. It's like, so that's what makes things like meditation and prayer so hard in the first place, is because it's not because of anything to do with our heads or our minds. No, it's because the world that we're conditioned to be suited to and to live in. That's what makes meditation hard. That's what makes prayer hard and like seem like something like that's so foreign and alienated to all of it. I'm alienated from prayer. I don't really think prayer is for me, but I like meditation. Okay. And like from what I understand about prayer, you know, and based on my experiences meditating, I'm like, you know, there's a lot of overlap there. There is. It's just that it's just painted or framed slightly differently, you know? It's like a different finger pointing to the same direction, and everyone's just looking at the different fingers, not the direction it's pointing.
I see. Well, can we get back to music stuff though?
Yes. All right. So moving on to the list. Number 2. All right. So second thing that I wish I knew before going into music production. It's not sexy. You won't get laid doing this.
Supposedly.
So what do I mean by this? Yeah, girls don't give a shit how many hours you spent behind Ableton or FL Studio, or how many hours you spent in your fucking grungy little fucking New York City studio room. And I'm not just talking about your room, by the way. We all in different boroughs, different areas. Everyone's
it's
got
always
that.
grungy. It's always grungy.
Everyone's got that setup of like it's just like one like basically condemned building full of like less than a studio apartment sized room. It's just locked rooms, like single rooms. It basically looks like it could double as a CIA torture black site, honestly. Like, you know, like
Yeah. Sometimes the stuff we make can double as CIA torture, like, methods.
all right. So you know how like the dated depictions of the CIA torture methods were like, in the movies they use music like Metallica and shit.
Yeah.
What do you think they use nowadays? You know, because that was back in like Al Qaeda days. What do you think they use now in 2023?
Dubstep.
Dubstep?
I don't know. The Strokes.
Interesting. You don't like the Strokes?
No, I love the Strokes.
You know who I hate?
Who?
What? Even though I think they make good music, I don't like the Smiths.
I'm not big on them either. I
don't
prefer
like-
Joy Division.
Joy Division.
Yeah.
If you had to choose between killing the Red Hot Chili Peppers or the rest of the members of Sublime, who would you choose?
What are the members of Sublime up to?
They got a new singer, Sublime with Rome.
Chili Peppers are dying. But yeah.
I heard there was one case where like a lot of times like there's a lot of people who like Bad Fish, the cover band, more than they like the new Sublime.
Is Bad Fish better than Fish?
Bad Fish is a Sublime cover band.
Yeah, but what about Fish? You know,
Phish, yeah. Yo, I don't know. I'm not really into jam bands,
Yeah.
but I did see this one cover they did. It's on YouTube, of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and it was fucking phenomenal.
Well, that's just a good ass song.
Well, it's also just the way he did it. It was just amazing. It was like it was the perfect moment. You could tell it was the perfect moment. Like it was like they must have covered that song in so many other gigs, but that was that one moment where it must have just felt perfect. The vibe was perfect.
They fucking channeled it.
Yeah, and they killed it. It's
Nice.
literally that's what they call it in the business, right? They smashed it. They absolutely murdered it. Like it was great. It was a once in a lifetime performance.
Decapitation.
Yeah. So all right.
Well-
Anyway, music production, it's not sexy. It's not going to get you laid.
Yeah.
Girls do not give a shit. Women do not give a shit. People don't give a shit about
Yeah, not
about
only
this.
does no one give a shit, also girls don't give a shit, which is even worse.
When do girls give a shit about music production? Because there
Then-
is a certain point as a music producer where
Supposedly.
I guess that it's the same with any
But
art.
they don't know you. That's just being a celebrity.
Yeah, it's like you just get famous with it, regardless of what you do. You could be like a celebrity chef, and girls would be
Yeah.
all over you. They'd be like, "Oh my god, you're so good at cooking." It's like, thanks, babe.
Well, like, here's a question: how many like celebrities do you think basically like date their fans? Right? Like, they probably get with their fans, but I don't think they're like, "Oh, my fans should be like my boyfriend or girlfriend."
Never.
Right.
I don't think they ever do it.
Yeah,
No.
like
No.
a lot of times I feel like they just get someone from like a completely different discipline who just doesn't even know them.
Yeah, I agree.
Or they're like the same discipline, but like, you know, they're both engaged in it. So like a musician would date a musician, like a movie star would date a movie star.
Put it this way: why do you think high society is so obsessed with engaging in social gatherings and stuff like that? Because without those, they would literally be isolated from most human contact. These are people who can't just walk into a Kroger's or a fucking Walmart. You know, these are people who literally, like,
Right.
you know, it's like if they wanted to get a McDonald's burger, they would literally have to send someone to go get it for them. Because if they're seen in there, a lot of them would get assaulted or harassed. So that's why
Yeah,
they're
you can't walk in with like 6 bodyguards to the McDonald's.
yeah, so ever since like the inception of celebrity culture, which God knows when that was, I think historically there's always been like instances where these types of people of high status would make a point to create gatherings where they could attract other peoples of status. Because I mean, look, consolidation of power aside, like as a high status person who's known for doing something crazy, you're gonna want to like get with other people who've done notable things because you're gonna get curious. You're gonna be like, I want, like, let's say you're an astrophysicist, and let's say I'm like a world class aerospace engineer.
Yeah.
It's like you like, let's say we heard of each other. And you would come to think, it's like, like, what would happen if we were in the same room? You know, that thought would come across your mind. You'd be like, I want to talk to that guy. Like, I want to see what, because I think that's what it's like. It's like, you know, you get to a certain point in society, you're like, I want to pick the brains of other people who knows what it's like to live this high up.
Yeah.
So I think there's always going to be like institutions to facilitate that for like famous people.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, you know, they will, you know, give each other good advice and not try to fuck each other over, which also happens sometimes.
Yeah, but I think it's such a small
like
world.
beefs.
I think it's such a small world. They know better. That they know that they could fuck over like all the smaller people before they have to like start fucking each other over. Because the smaller people are stupider, generally. Like we are stupider than people who see and experience less of the world. I mean, more of the world, I should say.
I don't know how much drama they all get into together. Like, there's probably competition amongst them. But anyway, yeah, women or, you know, attracting people through your art is generally not a good use. Like, you're better off just attracting them normally than trying to be, like, a cool artist.
Yeah, it's also why I kind of like the distinction between like musician and music producer, because I think there is an element of being a music producer that's more behind the scenes.
100%.
You know, because a musician is like literally basically the face of the music. Yeah. They play the music. They are the performers. They are the people.
Like
they do the thing.
We're like the Harvey Weinsteins of music, right? Like no one wants to suck our dicks. We have to get them to suck our dicks through the exertion of our power and cash.
We're like the Oppenheimers and not the pilots of the bombers that dropped the bomb. And we're just the guy who.
No, obviously we do not have the cachet to get anyone to suck our dicks for any reason yet. And it's not to say that we will do it when we do get that kind of cachet.
You know who gets way more pussy than music producers?
Literally everyone.
DJs.
Yeah. True.
DJs could not know a fucking thing about making music. They don't have to know.
Yeah, they don't have to be there.
They don't have. They don't have to know how a They don't have to know how a single plugin, a single effect. They don't have to. They don't have to learn anything about actually producing or making music, and they will just get like. They will just get infinite trim. I like that word, trim.
Yeah, well, it's like, it makes sense because, you know, if you're the entertainment at a party, that automatically puts you in a higher status.
Because everyone's looking at you.
Party, yeah.
Everyone's paying attention to you.
They're like, yo, like, you made this party happen. Holy shit. Like, even if all you did was stand there and push play on, like, a playlist that someone else made up.
Yeah, I definitely...
music that someone else made up.
You know what though? I'm glad that I didn't focus too much into being a DJ. I'm glad that I put like just at least as much, if not more, focus into being a music producer because I don't know, man. Like, look, I love my DJ friends. I love you all, but a lot of quite a few of them are dead now, and I think there's something to be.
Hold on, is that typical? For DJs,
I hope not. I hope that's not the case most of the time. I really genuinely hope. I just hope that's my case. You know.
No, I hope it's not your case either. But I guess it's your friend's case.
No, I hope that's isolated. That's isolated with me. Like I hope that it's not. I wouldn't know. I can't live a mile in another person's shoes. I can't walk a mile in another person's shoes. But I can say that for myself. Like DJs. From my personal experience, I've noticed that DJs are very
expendable,
integrated into party culture and party lifestyles and nightlife, and that could inextricably get you involved with some shady elements of the underworld, which does exist. And it could go as deep as a surface level as some casual recreational drug use, all the way down to like sex trafficking. But we don't have to get in there. We don't have to go there, but. It does. It is all definitely linked, especially when it comes to like electronic music
it's
and dance
unfortunate.
music. It's all connected. It's all involved with each other. So it's just something to be mindful of, you know.
Yeah. As I always like to say, there's two kinds of DJs. The kind that do cocaine so they could DJ, and the kind that DJ so they could do cocaine. And you
I look
gotta
at
know
it-
which one you are.
I look at it as I mean, it's just going back to hermetic principles, you know, like as above, so below. As high up as you see something go, you know, like let's say music, for example. You know, you see all those superstars who basically like run the world, have billions in assets and all that shit. As high up as you could go is about as dark and as low and as like as seedy and as fucked up as it can go. So
Ooh, really? Okay.
I mean, it's just the general rule of thumb. It's the law of correspondence, you know, like as within, as
The
without.
brighter you are, the longer your shadow gets cast.
Yes, precisely. It's, you know, I'm not. This isn't an original thought. This is a very,
No,
you
I
know,
know.
very well established concept.
True.
Okay, so next
So
thing.
yeah, fuck bitches, get money, but like art will not really get you. Neither
No,
of
it's
those.
fuck music. Fuck bitches. Get music. Kill yourself.
What? No one said that.
Wait. So it's listen.
Fuck bitches, get music, kill yourself. Chris Kim.
No.
Original quote.
No, it's fuck music, love bitches, and love yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Number
Chris
three.
Kim.
Number 3 on the list of things I wish I knew before becoming a music producer.
And you will too.
This is actually Dimitri's. You can sound as good as quote unquote real musicians. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that took me a long time to figure out because when I started, I always thought like as an amateur, I'm always going to sound amateur. And like I shouldn't it's not that I shouldn't try to sound good.
You should
it's
just quit.
No, it's like I was always like, oh, like I'm going to always sound amateur. Like it's like it's not possible for me to sound like a professional. And that's actually not true. Like if you do all the things the professionals do, you will sound professional. Like you can do it. Like anyone can do it. You just have to do the things. And you know, those things tend to be like very nuanced and you know, topics that take like 10 years of study or at least. But you can get there. Like you can get there. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
Especially
not to say that I got there, but you know, like
I
it's
also
possible.
think
Like, you can see it.
I also think it's getting easier to get there as time goes on.
True.
I think technology. Look, guys,
Well, technology and knowledge.
look, I'm not saying I'm professional necessarily in standard by today's standards in any means, but I will say this. If you compared me and the kind of music that I could make to like someone even 40 years ago, like they would look at the things I could do and they would be like, what the, not even 40, let's go with 20 years ago. They would look at the things that I could do and they'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? You know?
They would kill for this stuff. Like,
You know what? With the integration of like artificial intelligence or learning algorithms implemented into like actual plugins and services now, just 10 years ago, all these music producers would have been like coming their pants. They would have been like, "What the fuck? You could do what now? Like, I what? Like,
dude, you could make like a top 40 hit song in your bedroom. That's insane.
you could take any top 40 hit song and comprehensively split every element in the track from the low end to the mids to the vocals, everything. You just by feeding it into some like web-based learning algorithm service that literally breaks songs apart and recreates them for you with or without certain elements in it, which is a game changer for DJs. I'll admit. So this is actually a basic function in the new fucking Serato. Like now Serato DJs can literally just like separate the vocals from like any track they want and just mix in.
Oh shit.
Like DJing is now crazy. Like DJing is,
So you can like break a whole song apart.
Yes.
Like live.
and it's like natively a function in Serato. Like, you know.
right. But I mean, that's not to do with like you making a song. though,
No,
I'm
it's
saying.
just DJing. That's all pure, you know, record spinning, disc jockey shit.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not even jockeying discs anymore. You're just literally jockeying waveforms. Like that's
Yeah.
all it is, just digital waveforms.
But yeah, my point is though, like you should, you know, you can aim for the top. Like you can do really good stuff. Like it is within your grasp. You don't need like, you know, crazy money and crazy equipment these days. Like it's just there. Like you could grab it if you, and yeah, like all the knowledge is also out there. Like you could go on YouTube, you could buy courses, like you could find teachers and mentors. Like
I
it
will
is
add, though,
so much more accessible.
I will
It's
add,
crazy.
though, you will have to give your time, and that's what a lot of
And
people.
effort, yeah.
That's what a lot of people get like turned off by. It's the time, because whether we consciously know it or not, viscerally we understand time is our most valuable resource, because we are only born with a limited amount of it, and we're constantly losing it, and we can never make more. So time is our most valuable asset. You have to come to terms if you want to get into this shit. You have to come to terms with the amount of time that you're going to put into it. I'm sorry, like even the biggest superstars in the game, like they put a lot of fucking time into
That's
it.
true.
And they only put time into it because they fucking loved it. It was fun. And that's another thing that I could honestly say with like confidence. Like if you give yourself to this, like if you actually surrender yourself and put your ego aside and actually choose to engage with this, with like enough curiosity and the love of learning new things, you will find like a whole incredible new dimension of reality. Pretty much, to be able to manipulate sounds is like a gift. It's not something to be taken lightly. I think it is something that could be considered close to like actual magic. Like to be able to manipulate sound and to affect other people with the sounds you project. That's we do it with speech, but to be able to do it in such a nuanced way and such a controlled and like varied way through playing instruments and like designing sounds and all that shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, and it is a lot of fun. I mean, it's true that people say it takes a lot of time, and it does. But like, I feel like most people who are into it, they don't mind so much. I mean, they definitely mind certain aspects, but they're not gonna be like, oh, I can't believe I spent 40 hours on this song. Like, I could have been watching Family Guy. Like, they're like, yeah, like I'm getting this song done.
If you get that
It takes
point-
40
if you-
hours. It takes 40 hours.
If you get to the point where you're like at 40 hours like into making a song, in my opinion, I think like at first you're not going to see it this way, but once you get into that state like enough times, you realize you're basically possessed. You're possessed by something. Call it like a creative force, God force. Call it like some flow state.
So I said you're like channeling the, like, you're like channeling the spirit.
It's definitely
Yeah.
it's a different mode of my brain. It's clicked in a different slot than it would be just living my day-to-day life, like interacting with people, doing my job, chilling, being out and social. When I'm like sitting there in
in
my
the
zone,
flow.
yeah, in my place, like where I'm just like there's no one else and I'm just making songs, I'm definitely somewhere else. Like I'm not like Chris is gone and in place is something else that's just like tapped in and not saying a word and just like adjusting, doing micro adjustments, playing, replaying over again, constantly fixing what I don't think could work better and then adding another thing. Like that is, I think that's the best version of myself. Like that's my favorite. When I'm like that, to me, it reminds me of like when I'm fighting in martial arts, like when I'm sparring, when I'm like doing forms, when I'm like doing test cutting and shit like that.
Sparring with the DAW.
Either way, when I'm in that state where I could just forget about myself, forget about what's happening tomorrow, what happened yesterday, what happened 10 years ago, what's going to happen 10 years later, when I'm just like completely in like the
It's
present
you and
moment.
the song.
Yeah. Or me and the opponent, it's like,
Yeah.
what else matters at that point? If I lose this, I'll die, like, so all that matters is this. That's why I think like martial arts is so, I mean, look, Musashi said it the best because he said, like, if you want to be a truly good warrior, you also have to be a good writer. You also have to be a good artist. You also have to like dabble in cooking. Like you have to like know, you have to be an explorer. Like he believes that like if you understand quote unquote the way, which is how he describes enlightenment, you will, if you find the way in the sword, you will find the way in everything else in life. And I totally agree with that. 100%. If you're able to get the framework of just giving yourself up to the study and practice of something, nobody can outshine you. Nobody. Because you could choose to give yourself to anything and master it. Especially if you're able-bodied, you have all 4 limbs, you have all your fingers. If you fit that criteria, you're capable of almost fucking anything.
Well, actually, even if you don't, like,
Exactly.
there's still a lot you could do.
If you have your fucking brain and the ability to communicate, yeah, you're right.
As long as you're not retarded. Which some of us might be.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Present company excluded
Right.
or included. Like, I
Or
don't know.
included. Who knows? Okay, what's the next one?
All right, number 4. The fourth thing I wish I knew before becoming a music producer. Quote unquote good music is real. It's not all subjective. So what this means to me, before I ask you what you meant by that, I will say that yes, art is widely subjective, not mostly or minimally, but it is widely subjective. But I think it is acutely objective.
I think the subjective objective divide is kind of a false dichotomy.
Okay.
Not just in art, but in general. Like, most things involve an interaction between, your perception, your subjective perception, and like objective real world characteristics.
Okay. Like the
Right.
state, the actual physical state.
Yeah, and music is no different. Art is no different, right? Like, I think, like when you experience good art, it's like visceral in a way where your mind is just kind of like enraptured by it. Like, it carries its point across whether you like it or not. you know?
Okay. When you experience it, yeah.
Like, you hear like a metal band, right? You just feel like the terror and like the excitement and the anger of like the singer and the
Okay.
band, right? When you hear like a chill track, you like calm down.
So let me
you, like,
ask,
vibe.
because like you're not giving me examples of anything bad. You're just giving me examples of different, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, good art has this quality.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is, can you give me examples of like objectively bad music?
So that'd be hard to do because how would you know it? Like, you can fail in many categories in art,
But
right?
there could be that one golden quality that makes all those failures redeemable.
So, I mean, the problem with bad art is like most people just don't know about it, right? Because it like never engaged that much that you just don't care, right?
So bad
Like,
art.
you don't even
okay.
hate bad art.
So
You just don't care.
So
about
it's
it.
really almost like bad art is only a consequence of one's own ego. Like, you don't really experience bad art unless you have the ego that has the framework to facilitate experiencing bad art.
Well, I mean, I see like amateur. Like, I listen to like amateur bands. I listen to like amateur producers.
That doesn't make it bad.
I don't think it's bad either. No, I think there's a lot of merit to like generally anyone who makes art. I think, anything they put effort into. Well, no, I wouldn't go that far either. Like, when someone puts themselves out there artistically, I think that always has some merit, right? Like, it's never like horrible, like all bad. It can be
'cause
cringe.
because they give a shit. If you give a shit, you can't hate it. You could cringe at it, but you can't hate it.
No, but even then, like, it's like a sincere attempt. Like, you got to have a little bit of respect for it, in my opinion.
I agree.
But, I mean, I've seen some cynical art, too, like people who are just pandering, like, to, what they believe the audience would want.
I can appreciate that too, because some people
that
who are
has good qualities as well. Like,
some people are so good at that. You got to be
Yeah.
impressed at their ability to like tap into the pulse of like
not just that, they also like execute like very competently.
Yeah.
Usually.
Well, that's like all principle based. Like, good design has objective principles to it. Like good design has
Right.
like, for example, good design is environmentally conscious. Whether it's like theoretical, like metaphysical environment or actual physical environment, good design is conscious of the space it takes up.
Sure.
In what sense? Good design also follows other rules. So, yeah, I also think I agree with you.
Right. But I mean, to do bad art, like, okay, so let's take like Friday by Rebecca Black, right?
Okay.
Would you say that's like a bad song?
No. Subjectively, yes. Objectively, no.
Okay, so why do you think? I mean, yeah, like it's competently executed in the sense that it's like well mixed.
Not even that,
Well produced.
just the impact it had. Look, I'm in Discord channels where every Friday, like, these dickheads are still fucking posting a link. I'm like, why do you post that link every Friday? Like, dude, we've heard the song before. You posted it before.
Wednesday, my dude.
He posted it every Friday, and it gets to a point where if he doesn't post it, I'm worried. And that
Oh,
pisses
no.
me off even more because I'm like, this man hacked my brain. You know,
Yeah.
he fucking, this dickhead.
That's like meme status, right? But
Well,
like,
memetics is a very real thing, you know?
right, but my point is, even if that song is cringe, it had cultural resonance.
That's what makes it subjectively bad and not objectively bad.
No, I think that's what makes it objectively something. I wouldn't say necessarily good,
but it's not bad.
It had objective cultural resonance, right? Like it did something to the world.
No, you're gonna have to.
You can't deny that.
You're gonna have to do better if you're gonna tell me that there's a song out there that's objectively bad, because I cannot think of a single.
I wouldn't go that far. Like I
can't
said.
think of a single objectively bad song.
I mean, if you want, like, I could just sing some complete bullshit right now, and that'd just be an objectively bad song, because I'd purposely do it bad.
No, but I would still appreciate that as content, you know. So it still wouldn't be objectively a bad song altogether.
Yeah. So in the context of this podcast, it would have merit, but like you'd never want to listen to it outside.
You know what? You know, it'd be awesome if there was a literal song that I could sing, and that like a person hearing it would just instantly like have their head explode. Like that would be that would be an awesome song, but it would be an objectively bad song.
Well, you know about the brown note?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that, but take it to its like craziest extreme. Like you don't just shit yourself. Like your head just explodes if you hear the song. So
No, but see, my argument is that could actually be a good song because it would have utility, right? Like it has like a real effect. It would be real art. I'm saying like a bad song would have like no effect. Like you just listen to it and you'd be like, I basically didn't hear anything.
No, but that's not.
Like, that was just like that's like 4 seconds, like 30 seconds.
But that's not a bad song to me. To me, that could be useful for like meditation and stuff.
No, because it doesn't put your mind at ease. It just
it does. If it makes me think
just,
nothing,
your time just is like it's not even that it makes you feel bad. It's just like it's just blah, you know.
I don't think that's bad.
Like, and it's not even like necessarily incoherent. It's you just don't get anything out of it.
You know what music kind of has, like, it gets close to what you're saying, what you're describing?
What?
You ever play The Sims?
I never owned The Sims. I have played at like friends' houses.
You ever hear like The Sims talk to each other?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
so in the newer editions of The Sims, you could get like a radio or like a stereo system, and when you turn it on, like they have music, and it's funny because they're actual songs, but they're songs sung in their
Sims language. Yeah.
Yeah. So like to me, that's like I get that feeling where I'm like, this does absolutely fucking nothing for me. Like
Yeah,
why?
but in the context of the game, it like represents music,
I know,
right?
it's
I wouldn't call that like the same thing as good or bad art. It's like a different thing.
My
kind of.
God.
I mean, a lot of art is about how you contextualize it.
The way I see it, it's like if our world, if our universe is a simulation run by greater beings, like the language we're speaking and the music we make is probably like that to them. It's probably like Simlish to them, you know, like
Probably
fucking,
even worse. Probably like noise.
yeah.
But such is life.
Don't use that quote in front of me.
And it's not even like contextually related.
That's actually a
See, that's an
fantastic.
objectively
Do you know the
bad
do you know
time
the
to
do
use
you know
that
the
quote.
historical context of that quote?
Nope.
Oh, I just learned about it in John Wick 4.
What?
I forgot someone, but who the actual guy was.
Wicked John.
But apparently, like, that quote was attributed to a man who was like just about to be executed, or was knowingly walking into a situation where he knew he was going to be executed.
Oof.
And then the guy was like, "You're about to be executed. Like, don't you know you're walking into your own, your own death?" And he's like, "Such is life."
Wow. Well, Kurt Vonnegut used "So It Goes."
So it goes.
Yeah. And then I have friends that always quote, "That's the way she goes. That's the way of the road." Yeah.
You know, someone made a very interesting comment on one of my Facebook posts. I'm not going to dox him, but he said, I posted something on Facebook. I said that what's it called? That life is the highest art. If you can master your own life, you can master any art. And then he comes in and he said that he thought about it, and he described how most of his favorite art authors were guys that, like, generally had a good handle on their life. They had a good handle on their mentality, their
That's
lives.
surprising.
But then his favorite musicians or his favorite albums were made by musicians who were in like the worst possible fucking state of emotional turmoil and like, you know, self-destructive lifestyles and shit. And I thought that was interesting because, you know, I think about it and I was like, I look at all the prolific authors, even guys like Stephen King, Kurt Vonnegut, towards the end of their, well, towards the later years, I should say, because Stephen King's still around, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, but either way, both these guys, like in their later years, they ended up becoming like enlightened, like spiritually, like awakened. Like both these guys, literally.
But hold on, but did their art get any better for it?
I don't. Honestly,
Somehow I feel
probably
like it didn't.
Probably not.
Yeah,
Probably
I
not.
feel like
Yeah. No,
they
I don't.
peaked before.
I
they
don't think
achieved that
spiritual awakening makes like any of your artistic output any better. Honestly, I think the only thing spiritual awakenings will ever do is just make your life better. I don't think it makes your music better. I think what actually makes your music better is the opposite. I think what makes your music better is like vibrating at the grossest forms of matter frequencies, you know, like.
Well, I have a similar theory. I think a lot of good art comes from repression.
Oh yeah, that's a good point because, you know, that's your shadow, and once it builds
Yeah.
up, you could channel it into your art. That's a really good point. Holy
I
shit.
feel like that happens a lot, and that's both why art is appealing, because you know it like expresses repressed concepts.
It also becomes a necessity at that point.
and then it's good for the artist because that's their like outlet.
You're absolutely right. You're totally right. But and you know what's good? What's lucky about that is no matter how whatever enlightened, intelligent, whatever you are, you're always repressing something. To live in this society is to accept a certain level of repression, right?
Well, okay. Do you know the difference between repression and suppression? By the way.
Repression is where you may suppress it but it doesn't go away, whereas when you suppress it, you don't let it get out, but it goes away eventually.
No. So suppression is conscious. Like your brain like knows the thing and is going, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to think about this, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like moving away from it. Repression is basically your brain doesn't let you know about the thing.
Yeah.
Like you can't even think it. Like if you try to think it, like you'll get angry and upset.
Okay, that was a better way to describe it. But I basically that's what I meant when I said I was like repression is like you hold it down, but you know it still stays because you're not consciously holding it down. It just it's like unconsciously held down, so it still stays there. Whereas when you suppress something, you consciously hold it down, where you could identify it easily, manipulate it enough. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You just described it way better than me, you bastard.
Well, it's because I read about this stuff.
All right, fine.
But
yeah.
Well, what were we talking about?
We're talking about how
channeling
music,
art,
channeling your repressed shadow into the art that you output, which is a very, very good tactic for life. It's a good strategy.
Well, I don't think you even have a choice.
Yeah,
I think
we
a lot
have
of
to do it.
people just, like that's the repression mechanism, right? They feel compelled to express it through something like art because they can't express it otherwise. Yeah. Because their brain won't let them.
Yeah.
So they have to hide it in like a song.
Yeah, you know what? That's honestly when it comes to music, like I like making like really gritty, borderline industrial, cyberpunk, synth heavy shit because I like deep down, like one of my biggest fears is living in a world where it is like a cyberpunk dystopia, but consciously, like I want to take pride in being ready for it, and that's also satisfy the cynic in me, where it's like I told you so. I told you shit would get this fucked up, but then it's like it all comes to a head and all converges in a productive way when I put it into my music. I'm like, you know what? At least I could express that world that I see deep down in deepest pits of the back of my brain. I'm like, yeah, this could be our world. And I want to make music that'll reflect that, that kind of insight. Yeah, exactly. We're already there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows how much deeper it'll go.
All right. Anyway, we're getting to the last point. Number 5. Number 5, out of the things that I wished I knew, or we wish we knew before becoming music producers, it's don't get too caught up with the lifestyle.
Ooh.
So yeah, ever since coming into making music,
Don't get caught up in not being able to afford an apartment.
I definitely found myself in some fucked up situations that I probably would never have been in if it wasn't for music. And that's because I actively chose. I thought it came with the territory, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go into this. It sounds good for me, and it really wasn't.
I'm pretty sure it didn't sound good for you. Like if someone said it to you, you'd be like, nah, this doesn't sound good. But it probably sounded cool and exciting.
Well, it felt good at the time.
Okay, there
I'll
you
say
go.
that much. It felt good.
Yeah.
Whether it was drugs or sex or fucking doing reckless shit. It
And
felt
the sex
good.
had nothing to do with his ability as a producer, apparently, because that was number 2.
What? Oh, look. Actually, you know what? It's not that it got me more of anything. It's just that it got me into things that led to it. So it's not
I
that.
see.
And like I said, I'm saying now it comes with a cost. Like it still comes with a cost. The lifestyle encompasses many things of material pleasures of the flesh, and some of it could fuck you up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely many artists succumb to the cocaine.
The
of the
cocaine.
DJing.
The cocaine. That's a big one. Everyone
Yeah.
loves their cocaine. I love cocaine. I
I've
do
never done
cocaine.
it.
Never?
No.
Well, good. God bless you. I mean, you're not missing much, but I liked
That's what
it.
they say. I don't know.
I like it.
I'd rather just go to sleep.
I mean, the thing is, like, I like that I got it out of my system as like a lowly plebeian. So
you got
it-
it into your system.
So if I ever did raise my station, like I'm like I know what I'm missing. I'm like, you know what? I have other crazy things to experience. Like I don't need to do this cocaine shit. Whereas if I never did it and then suddenly I came into a lot of like money or status or power and then cocaine was presented to me, man, I would fuck myself up really bad. At least I learned temperance. You know, I got it early with limited resources and means, so I understood temperance and I saw what it did to people of limited means who go too deep into this shit. So I got the firsthand, observances and transgressions of
Yeah.
what not to do and what to do. And I feel like that benefits. So I feel like now I'm better equipped to handle like future situations where, they may seem tempting, but I'll be like, motherfucker, I know what this does to you. Like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing your fucking like.
Wait, so you're saying you don't do cocaine anymore?
I mean, no, I still do cocaine. I just
Okay,
mean
just
like,
checking.
all right, imagine like one day in the distant or near future, you get opportunity, like you come into a lot of money and you get into situations where it's like, oh, do you want to do like not just like a 50 bag of cocaine like when you were poor, but do you want to do a whole ounce tonight on a yacht and then like drink our body weight in champagne? I'll be like, no. Like, no, I know. First of all,
I don't think anyone asks you ahead of time. I think you're just presented with it and then you just keep going. No one's like planning. I mean, okay, no, that's not true. Some people plan it, but oftentimes it's not planned.
either way, I know how fast it gets out of hand. Like I've definitely
True.
gotten into situations where you started with a little bit, which turns into a little more bit, which turns into a lot of bit, and it
Yeah.
turns into too much, and suddenly like you're in a very very volatile emotional state. You lost a bunch of your precious items, things that you need in life, and suddenly like you're in a bad spot, and it's all because you did too much drugs. Once you've experienced that enough times, if you're smart, you learn your fucking lesson, which
And
is
you're not addicted.
which goes back to the rule: don't get too caught up in the lifestyle. Because if you make that a habit, suddenly you make losing shit a habit. Suddenly you make fucking shit up a habit, breaking shit a habit, crashing
Yeah.
your car a habit,
Yeah,
getting in
and-
trouble with the law a habit. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, and then you get into this like live for the moment mentality.
Yeah, no, bad.
Like,
Never
you gotta
live.
think long term, baby. Especially if you want to be successful.
Oh fuck! But I have a contradictory like sense side of me where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, live for. You should live for the
you
moment.
gotta let loose occasionally. Don't get me wrong. Like like music
I think there's
contains party. Like
I think
contains
there's a
celebration.
difference between living in the moment and getting caught up in the moment.
Sure. Well, you can't lose yourself in the music the moment you want it. You better never let it go. You only
You only
got,
got
one,
one
shot.
shot to blow.
You only got one shot to do blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Yeah, man. I'm definitely gonna do cocaine quite a few more times in my life before I'm
No
through.
one doubts this.
Yeah, I'm only 31 years old. I'm definitely gonna be doing more cocaine. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah.
What will kill me though, what I can't do, what I definitely cannot ever get into again, is PCP.
Bro. What?
The angel dust.
Yeah,
I
no.
can't do that anymore.
No one should do that.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not.
I said it first, man. You can't just repeat what I say like you said it
No,
first.
I'm agreeing. I agree.
Yeah. All right. So Before we wrap it up, I know you had some notes. Is
No,
there
hold on. I was gonna give my take on this.
PCP?
No,
what
no. The fifth.
the
veil.
fifth element.
Yeah. No, because a lot of times I feel like artists equate success with the lifestyle, right? Like,
Yeah.
They get more drugs, they get more bitches, they get more parties, they get more money.
I got
right?
bitches, I got drugs, I got car.
Yeah, like they think like this is validation of their art. I don't think that's true. I mean, it can be true.
And it is impressive in its own right.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like, your art kind of exists outside of all that. Like, it's good to be validated, but you can't mistake the validation, or you can't seek validation as a replacement for the art.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
A good song, it'll be good whether, you make $1 million off of it or you make like $0 off of it.
There's also been plenty
Though
of
I
songs.
do believe that, you will make, like, if you write a good song, it should bubble its way up to some success to some degree.
Yeah, I mean,
If you let it.
think
Or
of
if
the-
you if you know what to do.
well, think of the songs that got like 2 to 3 times bigger after the artist died. What does that tell you?
Sucks to be the artist.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, dude, that's the ultimate goal of the artist. It's it's not to live forever. It's to create something that lives forever.
I don't know about that either. I think artists just create. I don't think they have goals like that necessarily. They could, but it's not like every artist is like, this song is gonna outlive me. Ha 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 ha.
No. It has to. First of all, your art.
Some of the best.
No, your art should outlive you because your art is a reflection of something eternal. Your art is a reflection of something that doesn't
But that doesn't
die.
mean that like you intended it that way.
No, it's not that you don't have to intend it. That's just by nature what it is. Art is always going to be reflecting something within you that is eternal. It's not reflecting generally things that are like, supposed to phase out. Even if it is like if the subject is like temporary, the fact of like your feelings on it, your perspective on it, that is eternal. And that's what you're reflecting in your art. It's your eternal reflections on every facet of reality. And that you can't even like say like, like, oh yeah, this art was meant to be that. No, the art was meant to reflect your eternal perception, because that's what's eternal is the perception. That's why, like, art is so sacred. That's why we hold it to such high esteem, even today, to this day.
I don't fully agree with that. I mean,
You don't fully disagree either.
No, I think great art can do that, sure. And, like, there's timeless art. But I think plenty of art, like, can exist perfectly well, like,
Can I give you a good
capturing the
example?
moment and just leaving it at that.
Like, why do you think, like, when a child brings home a drawing that's like stupid fucking Crayola bullshit, but the parent takes it and they think it's the most precious thing in the world?
Yeah. What about it?
No, that's an example of how like it's really not the technique or the skill or the experiences at play. That's like eternal. I mean, that's what makes it good or bad, like in our subjective and objective perception. But what makes it meaningful at the end of the day is the fact that they did it in the moment they did, because that is what's supposed to be eternal. It's the human experience. That is what art reflects, and that is why like art is so sacred, because some art could be good, some art could be bad, but art holistically, in the whole sense of good and bad art, is sacred because it reflects something that is eternal and sacred.
The thing is, like, if you're a 6-year-old and your mom loves your painting or Crayola drawing, like, you can't let that get to you, man. You can't let the lifestyle, run
Otherwise
away.
you're gonna get the gifted child syndrome.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, holy shit, my crayon stuff is amazing. My mom loves it. Like,
And then
I'm
you're
gonna
gonna
be a
meet the-
great artist now.
And then you're gonna meet the
You're just gonna
autistic kid on
fuck your
tons of
life.
Adderall. He's like able to like
depict like some crazy reality.
like listen to some Roman general like at the age of like 9. Like
Yeah, and you're like, yeah,
perfectly.
well, my mom doesn't like this. My mom likes my thing.
yeah, well, my mom gave me 30 milligrams of Adderall just this morning, and I'm going to fuck you up with my drawing skills, bitch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you see, you can't let the lifestyle get to you like that.
Yeah, I agree.
That Adderall shit, that's just early cocaine. If you think about it.
Well, Adderall is more like meth to me
Whatever.
than cocaine.
It's an analogy.
Oh, okay.
But my
yeah.
point is, you can't confuse the lifestyle with the success. If your 6-year-old drawings are beloved by your class, they still may not amount to shit in the long run, or they may be fucking amazing. Who the hell knows?
For sure. All right. So
Only God can judge.
So any other tips for music producers out there? Like, you got any things to add?
Let me think. I have a whole. I feel like we did go through most topics I wanted to, just not in the same order that I wanted to. But we touched on most things.
All right, cool. Well, to close, I will say if you're going to become a music producer, don't do it. Just don't ever fucking do it.
Nah, bullshit. You don't think that.
No, I'm kidding. Do whatever the fuck you want. You honestly should. You only live once. There's no point in living for tomorrow or living for the past. Live for today. And if today you want to be a music producer, follow through with that.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
it's also going to take you 10 years to, like, get good or something like that.
Oh, that's
maybe
true.
Like,
I
maybe
mean,
no, I think these days you could do it in, like, 2 or 3. But, like, you got to be really dedicated.
you got to find the right mentor. And
Mentor could help.
Yeah, they don't even necessarily have to be people you know personally or that you'll ever meet in person, but find someone who you think knows what the fuck they're doing and copy what they do until you could deviate, you know, like until you could deviate and find out how to do things better or more suited to you. And then, you know, you'll start making your own style and you'll start coming up with your own way. And that's ultimately the goal, is to make your own path as an artist.
Actually, that reminds me of one more topic.
What's up?
Yeah, I was going to say, you should definitely learn an instrument first, in my opinion.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a controversial, like...
You know what? Yeah, I want to disagree, but to
Really?
be honest, I'll be real. Like I produce mostly electronic music, and I know a lot of other people who produce electronic music, but I know most of them don't really know how to play an instrument. I know how to play an instrument. I know how to play a few instruments, but I think
generally speaking, like, if you know how to play an instrument, you're going to be way better at it.
I agree. I do.
But it's going to be way easier.
This is what I said before. Remember, I said, like, when I have a guitar, I feel like I have the lightsaber. When I have the DAW, and I say it like as above, so below. Like, because, you know, like you have to, if you want to be well rounded, you have to know how, like, your one instrument fits in the whole of the project. But at the same time, if you want to be good with the whole, you have to know how precious each instrumental element really is. It's not just a random noise or a sound. You got to treat it like an actual person making that noise. And, you know, like, even if I'm using a DAW, like I'm behind a computer, I think what helps my mixes to sound like really comprehensive, not always good or bad, but comprehensive at least, is as I treat every sound as a precious element. Like, each sample I put down is like a person to me in the orchestra, just like doing a specific job, and I want them to do as good of a job as possible, and I want to equip them with the right settings.
That's true.
So that's my mentality with mixing. It's like I look at it like a conductor, you know, like all those little blocks, you know, that I put up. They're not just like random noises. Like they're their own musician that I'm trying to, like, put together, and
their own special little friend.
Yeah, my own little friend.
Bob Ross with the trees.
So yeah, that's my take.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say, I'd even go so far as to say you should, like, if you're gonna start with a main instrument. You know, like, really get into, like, guitar, piano, maybe vocal, probably piano, I feel. But then, like, you know, you could branch out to other things like drums or bass, or, like, you know, like, you could learn, like, some auxiliary instruments too, just so you get a feel for how other things, you know, like, different music formats can be done. Like, different expressions can be achieved through different instruments. And, like, I think that'll inform music production significantly.
Yeah, learning. Oh, all right. Also, if you do know an instrument, for all you instrumentalists out there, I would say if you're just picking up an instrument, your biggest goal right now should be jamming. You should go out there and find other musicians to play with in a live setting.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's true, because, like, I'm sick and tired of these.
It's tricky with production, though, because production is so solid, or it can be solitary.
But, like, you know, you say learn an instrument, but I think learning an instrument is pointless if you don't understand, like, the context of playing with other people. Like, you have to know that. You have to understand how to play an ensemble. Otherwise, it might as well just be the same as, like, working on a DAW. It's the same shit. You're just using your fingers.
No, I agree it's the same shit, but I'm saying, like, It's the same shit, but it's more visceral. It's more connected,
Yeah, I agree.
right? Like,
You get a better sense of rhythm, you know,
well, you get a better sense
of human
physicality.
and human rhythm. Yeah,
Like-
humanized rhythm.
By being more connected, you like feel it on a deeper level.
But when you
It's
jam,
just in a computer, you're
but when
like,
you
what?
jam with people, that gives you the feeling of connectedness and relatedness with other perspectives and
Also
real time.
true.
That expands your dimensions. You know, like
But I mean, I'd even say something like DJing can be worthwhile,
of course.
right? Like, you feel like connected to the crowd. You feel like the impact of your song choice resonate through like an audience.
It has to. That's what a good DJ does, right?
Well, I mean, you could feel the bad ones too. Everyone being like, "Ah, fuck this, leave." Like, you know, like you learn like the real response. You know?
Yo,
what
can I
mean?
grab one of those beers?
Yeah, they were basically done, right?
What?
They were basically done, right?
Yeah.
This is closing statements.
Yeah. Closing statements. Anyway,
Yeah, I'll give
all
it a
you
shot.
all you fucking music producers out there, just quit. Give up your dreams. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't give up your dreams. Keep
If anything,
at.
your dreams are more in reach than ever, unless you want to make money or get bitches. Then,
Yeah.
that's
Then you're.
just not happening.
Anyway, fuck that stuff. Anyway.
But you
fuck-
could make a great song. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck making money anyway. It's overrated. Just live simply, you know, and find simple people to live amongst and be simple like them.
Word.